loans, the crushing debt.
The cost of a college education is rapidly rising, far more than the cost of inflation, more than even the cost of healthcare, but I don't hear a peep about it in the media.
The policy of student loans is a total failure. I mean, $1 trillion of debt.
The colleges need to justify what it is they're doing with our tuition dollars and our taxpayer dollars.
It's becoming more and more and more expensive to go to college.
You are seeing the potential of an economically lost generation.
And the average debt for a college senior right now is over $25,000.
It's time for Congress to stand for the rights of student loan borrowers.
Because in the United States of America, no one should go broke because they chose to go to college.
I was sitting waiting for my AP Psych test, and I was like freaking out, like everybody's super nervous. My phone rings. I'm like, oh, it's my dad. Of course, he's gonna totally make me feel better. He's like, where do you want your stuff? It's in the back of my truck. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, well, Josie, my stepmom, told me to pick you or her, so where do you want your stuff? And I was like, oh, okay, I feel like crap now. So I was like, what am I gonna do? It was always like, you're going to college no matter what. Like, even if you have to like scrape gum off the ground, like you're going to college. And so when I decided like I'm gonna go to a 4-year university, I wanna go to a big school, it wasn't until later I realized like, oh my gosh, I'm paying for this. I have like a $2,000 loan, a $4,000 loan, a $3,000 loan, and then the $18,000 loan. And then I have like a school direct plus, that's like $2,000.
Federal loans, I think, since the late 70s, you haven't ever been able to declare bankruptcy. That's across the board on federal loans. But until 2005, you could declare bankruptcy on private loans. The moment that they put the bankruptcy protection in, schools had no incentive to keep tuition low. They started to go skyrocketing out of control because they were backed by the federal government and they would always get their money, no matter what. It's different than any other debt that we have. You can discharge your credit card debt, your home loans, your medical debt. You cannot get rid of your student debt. It sticks with you forever. I would like to see tuition freezes until we can figure out where, really open up the budgets and see where money's going.
If you paid more teachers to have smaller classes, people would learn so much more and the teachers would care more.
So they have plenty of money, but it's just not to subsidize the cost of education for students. And I don't think the students...
بینندگان گرامی، به برنامه مادر و کودک خوش آمدید. برنامه مخصوص برای خانواده ها و به خصوص دانشجوهایی که امروزه با این مشکل مهم نداشتن به اصطلاح پولشون برای خرج مدرسه یا دانشگاه و کالج کالج فاند مشکل خیلی عمده‌ای هستش. میدونم از هر کجا که با ما هستید این چالشی هست که شما رو نگران میکنه و میدونم که برنامه امروز برای تک تک شما خیلی آموزنده و بسیار مفید خواهد بود. امروز مهمان بسیار گرامی و متخصص بسیار عزیز و دوست گرامیم رکسانا مداحی اینجا هستند که ایشون با اکسپریانس و تجربه و دانش و آگاهی بسیاری که دارن قراره خیلی از این سوالها رو برای شما روشن بکنن و پاسخگوی این سوالات خوب شما در رابطه با کالج فاندز و اینکه چجوری ما صرفه جویی بکنیم و برای فرزندان آیندهمون آینده بهتری بگذاریم. رکسانا جان به برنامه مامتاک خوش آمدی.
Merci, thank you, Nelly. I'm very happy to be here. خیلی خوشحالم که
It's
اینجام.
really, truly an honor. It's a pleasure to have you. I know your passion is working with women and families. So your specialty, you're a financial advisor with Morgan Stanley. You've been there for how many years?
I've been there for 3 years.
3 years. So
I've been in the business for 9 years.
9 years. So you have years of experience working and guiding families who want to know and learn more about College Fund and how to protect their children and how to save and how to give the best and leave the best for college. So I know your passion is working with women and empowering women. And one of your strengths, I did a little research on you and talked to some of the people who have worked with you, and they all consistently said you are such an empathetic, you listen so well, and you really care, which are great characteristics of someone that you want to trust your financial planning to. I know for many of us women, money is a sensitive topic. You know, we're not very well educated about it, especially coming from our culture and our background. So tell us about yourself and your experiences and what brings you here, and let's talk about college funds.
Sure. I think the most important thing is that every child in America should be able to go to college. And it's not easy anymore. The Center for Financial Aid estimates that right now college is on average $40,000 a year. They're estimating that in 10 years from now, 2025, that it will be $90,000 a year.
It's so scary. It's so frightening. Really.
And for 4 years of college for a degree, that's $360,000. Very few people can afford that. So what I wanted to talk about today is 529 plans, which is a tax-efficient way to save for college if you plan properly and early.
Okay. So let's go on to, first of all, what's a 529? You know, many of our viewers have never heard of this plan, or some have heard about it and have heard it's controversial, pros and cons about it. So give us some good information on it, and in your experience, what's the best way to go about setting up a 529?
Sure, it's very simple. The best way to go about setting it up is to speak with your financial advisor usually, and they have a number of state plans that they can then use for you.
Okay.
The way that it works is you put away you can put away a certain amount of money. There are no minimums. From a tax perspective, there are maximums, but there is no actual maximum if from a tax perspective.
Okay.
And what you are able to do is you're able to invest from the time that your child is born, even before they're born. You're able to invest that money into the market.
Okay.
And then you do not have to pay taxes on any of the gains.
Okay. How much do you want to save, and what's the easiest way to sort of set up a 521? I mean, you said go to your financial advisor, but for someone who's just new to this and they want to look for a financial, how do you know who to go to and how do you set it up?
I'm more than happy to help anybody that needs help with this.
Okay.
At the same time, you can also just go on Google and Google 529 plans. All of the different plans have websites, and they will also be able to refer you to somebody that you can speak with. That's probably the easiest way.
Okay, and how can our viewers contact you? I see we have your email address.
Sure, I put my email address over there. That's the best way to contact me. You can also call me on my cell phone. Should I leave the number there or just say it?
If you feel comfortable.
Sure, you can always reach out to me. My phone number is 516-578-9562.
I know nowadays, many families, especially women moms, they look for that personal connection. They want to have your cell phone. They want to be able to ask you these very, personal questions and to know that you're there and you care and you have their back. So I always appreciate that when you have someone who cares and is there, like a friend, like a mommy friend who can really look after you. Because I tell you, speaking from my own personal experience, you get so busy and doing so much for the school and your own profession and just managing a household that this issue or this topic of money management becomes secondary. And oftentimes, when I think about it, when I sit down and we're brainstorming with my husband about money and the kids' future, it seems to be like a priority. It should be on top of one's list, especially with moms. I believe, it would be great to be educated, to be aware, to know how to conserve, savings and how to educate our children, because that's another piece that I'm very passionate about. To me, I feel like it's all about education. And I have made an effort, I'm very intentional now, to attend seminars and go to these educational seminars and educate myself about money management. But I don't see too much about, children's education, like, these seminars or groups who are doing something to educate kids. Do you know of any groups, or have you, what's your experience when it comes to kids and children?
I don't know about where kids can get more educated on these topics. There are tons of YouTube videos though.
Okay.
TED Talks is something that I really like. I'm always more than happy to speak to kids about what their future looks like and how to plan for their future.
Okay.
I think that's wonderful if your kids are interested. Great sign if they're interested from early
At what
on.
age would you start those conversations?
I would start it really early, 9, 10 years old. Make sure that your kids know not everybody can afford college. This is something that's really important. And raising kids that are money savvy, making them realize that there is a benefit to saving for their future. That, they get for instance, if they get an allowance every week, that put a little bit of money away for your future. Put money away for a year from now, for a week from now. I think it's a very uncomfortable conversation for kids and adults. Nobody wants to talk about the future of their financial life. It's uncomfortable, but what is most important is making a plan. Sitting down, talking to an advisor, understanding how much you're making, how much you're spending, and how to get where you need to be. Because without that you can be lost. And this is even for people that have a lot of money. It is no easy task anymore to pay for college for anybody. And one rule of thumb, for instance, that I tell most of my clients is that if you're able from when your child is born to put away $10,000 a year, you're able to invest it, and then you're not paying tax on those investments, you're very likely to be able to reach your goal.
Okay.
So that's something that's a little bit more attainable, a little bit more realistic than paying $360,000 for college all at once.
Okay. So what I hear you say is have a plan, a family plan.
Yes.
Involve everyone within the family system. So mom, dad, kids should all be involved in communicating the plan. And it should be consistent and integrated into the day-to-day behavior, which I find fascinating, because I think a piece of this, money management, an important piece of it is the communication. And when kids are not guided in terms of conservation, and we do live in a society that our children are exposed to different socioeconomic status, different groups of people
Yeah,
with
of
different
course.
type of money. Some have a lot and some not so much. And so it's nice for them to experience and know about the diversity and how to make these choices. You know, birthday parties, that's always a topic that comes up. I just attended a luncheon a couple weeks ago, and that was a hot topic as far as money management. So there were several moms who were pro having birthday parties, and then several moms who were against it and saying that, you know, these birthday parties are out of control, you know, several $1,000s of just waste, and we shouldn't really do it. And so there was this battle, this tug of war.
I definitely understand that side of both sides of the argument.
Yeah.
Because you want to invite your friends, you want to enjoy, you want to celebrate when your kid is turning older. At the same time, it's thousands of dollars that you're spending, and is it really worth it? Could this go towards something else?
Right. So what I hear you say is that all of this can be planned, discussed, and the more proactive you are as family members in making these plans, the healthier the money management skills and education.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
What if? How do you plan for this? Let's say for the 529 plan, or if you're short, you're not reaching your goal. You know, how do you adjust for that? As far as you know, a family who's trying to reach their goal, and maybe they started late, maybe they're not, you know, making so much money, as much money as they had hoped. How do you make those adjustments? What's the best approach?
It really depends on the family and on their situation in all of these cases. But there are a lot of creative ways to either get some type of revolving loan, obviously getting student loans. And you could, for instance, if you had money set aside for one thing that is maybe later on, you could work to use that find a way to get a loan against, you know, a certain amount of money that you have again for something else, and work on doing that. So it really just depends on where you are financially and where you need to be.
So that's where your expertise, your expert
Exactly,
skills
yeah.
Help. And I can imagine for many families who are watching this program and have not started a 529 yet, and they have kids who are in high school or middle school and getting closer to college years, they want to know, well, how do we get help? How do we start this plan? How do we get organized with our money management? So your recommendation, they can contact you,
Absolutely.
They can call your office, and you'll be able to guide them and help them get healthy with their plannings.
Absolutely. And the 529 is a piece of a much bigger plan, obviously.
Right.
And it's definitely a great tool in not paying additional taxes, in growing your money over time and letting your earnings grow upon your earnings. Okay. And I absolutely recommend it, but I recommend it as part of a bigger plan, as part of a bigger understanding of your finances.
Okay. We have a short video clip on the 529 plan. I like to show this clip, and then we come back and talk about your take on it, and as well as other advice on how to manage your money.
Great.
All right, stay with us.
To make the most of your 529 savings. For many children, college will be one of the most influential experiences of their lives. It's where they'll expand their minds, discover who they are, gain knowledge, and begin to build a future. It's also expensive. That's why saving now is so important. What can you do to increase your chances at success? Check out these 3 tips. 1. Start early. Like with any goal, the earlier you save, the better. The longer you keep your money invested, the more time it has to add up and potentially grow. Why's that? Introducing the power of compounding. Compounding happens when you continually reinvest your returns, and those returns earn more returns, and so on. To demonstrate, Let's look at a hypothetical example. Let's say you set aside $1,200 a year, or $100 a month, in a tax-free account, such as a 529 college savings plan. That's a total investment of $21,600 over 18 years. But if your account earns 5% a year, you'll actually have about $35,400 at the end of 18 years. That's a big difference. Save now and thank yourself later. 2, invest regularly. It's not enough to save early. It also helps to invest often. A lot of 529 plans offer ways to automate your savings, which makes it easy. Consider setting up a schedule for moving money between your bank account and your 529 account with an automatic investment plan. Or, if your employer offers payroll deduction, you can save for college with every paycheck. Let's look at why it pays to invest regularly. Remember that $100 you were setting aside each month? What happens if you forget to do so for, say, 3 months out of the year? Instead of putting aside $1,200 a year, you are saving $900. If you consistently miss investments over the years, you may wind up with more than $9,000 less. Avoid missing a beat by saving automatically. You'll be regularly adding to your account without even thinking about it. 3, focus on the long term. One of the best ways to achieve your goal is to see the big picture. Of course, it's a good idea to take a look at where your college savings are invested once a year to make sure they reflect the amount of risk you're comfortable with and your child's age. If you need help, we've got lots of tools to help you with your strategy. When markets are volatile, it's easy to get caught up. For example, if you invest in stocks, you can expect some downturns. Don't panic or get market jitters. If you rashly swap investments during a downswing, not only could you lose any money gained, but you could lose out on the potential upswing. In the long term, that setback is just a blip on the radar. It's important not to let your emotions take hold of your investment strategy. That strategy is unique to your situation. Having a plan and sticking with it could keep you from making costly mistakes based on short-term events. And that about wraps up our 3 tips for making the most of your 529 savings. Remember, to help increase your chance of reaching your college savings goals, 1, start early. 2, invest regularly. And 3, focus on the long term.
خب برمیگردیم به برنامه مادر و کودک MomTalk LA. خوش آمدید با خانم روکسانا مداهی, Specialized Financial Advisor at Morgan Stanley. So you've been giving some really good advice, and for our viewers, برای بعضی از شما که براتون 529 هنوز مبهمه و دوست دارین بیشتر دربارش information اطلاعات دریافت بکنین، حتما توصیه میکنم با خانم روکسانا مداهی تماس بگیرین. ایشون نه تنها خیلی کیر میکنن و understanding دارن و خیلی صبور هستن. She's very patient. She's a mom herself. She understands mommy's concerns. And also I feel your communication skills are amazing.
Thank you.
You really care. You're compassionate, and you don't rush. rush, because many times in today's world, everything's so rush and fast. But I like that you take time to really explain it all and answer questions, and you're available, and you make it very easy to understand.
Thank you. Well, these topics are complicated. They're not simple.
Right.
And they're not that easy to understand. And I was just telling Nelly, there are times that, and this is what I do for a living, there are times that I'm confused and I need to call people and I need to have them explain things to me.
Right.
So I think that is a huge issue in general in our society, is especially with women, is that they either don't understand something and are scared to ask the question, or that they feel as though they cannot understand it, but they actually have the intellect to understand it.
Right.
They actually did this amazing study last year called The Power of the Purse. And they found that they did an aptitude test for women and men on financial know-how. And women and men actually scored within 3% of each other. They scored almost exactly the same. And then they asked that same group of women and that same group of men if they feel as though they are financially competent. And 75% of the men said yes, and 25% of the women said yes.
Interesting.
So there is just I believe there's a confidence issue here,
Right.
and that women really need somebody that they can talk to, that can help them understand what exactly they're trying to accomplish, and that can also reiterate to them, you actually are smart. You just, this is not your expertise, and that's okay. And that's why we have experts in all different things. My expertise is definitely not speaking on TV, and that's why I come to you.
Oh, you're sweet. No, but I work with a lot of families, and many times moms who are very anxious about these topics. And like you say, it's the lack of confidence. It's not believing in their abilities or skills, or just being a mom who's overexhausted and tired and not paying attention, not being intentional about money management, because they're trusting their husband to sort of do the job. But I also notice that there comes a time when the disconnect creates tension and conflict in the family, where you have to guide the family, or bring them together so that they can be on the same page, focus on the same plan. Like you say, the plan can be crucial, because children as young as 9 or 10 are able to participate and come up with money management skills and plan, something that is going to last them a lifetime and is going to help them in their upcoming years with their college tuition, with their their life, really.
Absolutely, and it's a really, really important skill, and something that they can keep for their life. There's an app that we were just looking at called iAllowance that allows the kids to enter, for instance, how much their allowance is, and then what they could spend on it, and it really breaks it down for them in a pretty picture.
I don't know, we can show it, but iAllowance. Okay, so you can, we don't have a good shot of it, but it's iAllowance, and you can create a profile for your child and designate certain dollar amount for spending. I haven't set my account up yet, but what you do is you can give each child their own account, and what they can do then is decide how much money they delegate to spending and saving and giving for charity. So different causes, different ways to manage their money from an early age on an app. And nowadays, kids are crazy about apps. They really are into it.
You can't get them to do anything any other way.
Right. So this is one way to use technology in our advantage, and for children to feel empowered with their money and to feel like they're understanding how they're spending and saving and working with their money. To me, I think one of the also important connections or piece of communication is the relationship that kids start to have and the messages they hear about money from the early years.
Absolutely.
You know, how mom and dad are communicating about money around kids. What are those messages? Are we, you know, focusing on money as the only thing? Like, is money all that matters? Or is it the relationship, the healthy relationship that we're teaching our children about wealth management? And, you know, to manage your assets and your wealth and your money, and to be educated about it. I think education is probably the number one tool that every nation and every family can focus on, and, you know, bringing money into these important conversations. And oftentimes we don't. You know, I know that in our family, it's not a topic that we consistently focus on as far as integrating it into our education. How great for schools to bring this money management education into the early years.
I wish that they taught this in schools. I wish that there was more of an open conversation about this as kids are growing up. And this is something that is really up to the parents to teach their children, to teach them about budgeting, to teach them about saving, about investing in their future. It's so important, probably one of the most important skills that we could learn. And it baffles me that that you don't see any of this in schools. And
in the communication, I've noticed there's a cultural element that, especially in our culture, we're pretty private about money. We like to keep things hush-hush, like the British. You know, it's very like quiet. You don't talk about your money. It's very personal and very private. And how counterproductive that is to opening up the lines of communication, educating kids, understanding, you know, this is all part of our family health and wellness, and we ought to be informed, and we ought to be involved and engaged and have an open communication and understanding of how to manage our money. Right? So in working with Iranian American families, how do you help when that piece comes up? Because I work with lots of families when that is a conflict, especially when the first generation step in and now are worried about their assets, and I'm speaking of like the in-laws dynamics, and you know the whole process. So how do you help families when those dynamics play a role? When the daughter-in-law or the son-in-law is excluded and not involved in any of the financial planning and money management.
And it's true, it's culturally, Iranians are more private about their money. And they are, even with their spouses, I see that it's a little bit of a difficult road to discuss it even with each other. And this is probably the biggest challenge I have working with Iranians. And what I really try to push them to do is, rather than just giving an overall number of all of their wealth, is writing down a list of what their priorities are financially, what is most important for them, and doing this also with their kids, you know, moving with that theme of communication in the family. And once you have established what your priorities are, then you can talk about budgeting for each of these priorities and how you can do that.
So do you sit down with all family members? Do you hold like family meetings when you know, the like grandparents and the extended family members and the immediate family, they're all present with the kids, and you talk about
Not necessarily. Usually I will just speak with, I'll speak with only the immediate family. But if they want their grandparents there and they will have an open conversation in front of them, by all means, I'm happy to speak with them.
So if there is an interest, then you facilitate that meeting. And how valuable that could be, because I know many times everyone's focused on the best interest of the kids and the children's future. And I think to have this open communication and to have this planning based on a financial advisor who understands the culture and is able to facilitate these meetings can be extremely valuable.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that it's really important to have these conversations and to just be open because it's the only way to really teach your kids how to budget and how they're supposed to behave financially. Another thing I really wanted to talk about, separately from budgeting and communication in this area, is to also communicate that money is very separate from the person that you are. And how important it is to teach your kids confidence outside of what is actually on paper, what's in the bank. I think that.
How do you do that?
I think that it's not buying your kids love, not buying their confidence, not saying, you're going to have more friends, for instance, if I buy you this outfit, or if I have this birthday party for you and invite all of your friends, or if I buy you toys that you can share with other kids. I think that that's the most important thing, is to not put those two together, and to keep them separate, but to also share with them that, look, we need money to eat, we need money to live in a home, we need money to shower, we need money to do basic things.
Would you recommend, for example, I'm just thinking as you're talking about the grandparents and other extended family members who try to buy a lot of things, and sometimes that could get tricky because it could fall under that category of buying love, or doing something that maybe the child is really excited, but linking it to a thing or something that the child wants. Do you make recommendations to families when you see that pattern, or do you think that's also part of the family discussion and trying to figure out what are the priorities and what makes sense for every individual family?
Yeah, I think that it's personal in terms of how much is enough gifting and how much is too much. But I do think that it really just begins with values and with teaching your kids that, look, you got this great toy, that's wonderful, enjoy it. But that is not, you're not better because you have this great toy.
Got it.
It doesn't make you smart. It doesn't make you smarter. It doesn't make you a better person. It's fun, and enjoy it. Yeah, this new outfit that I bought you. So
that message to consistently communicate it and differentiate it, so that the child is able to internalize a sense of meaning and value that is based on their being and who they are, as opposed to things.
Yeah, and also feeling that for yourself. Kids are a lot smarter than I think I ever knew. And they pick up on their surroundings, their parents, the people that they surround themselves with so easily. And if that is something that as a mother you struggle with, then your kids will notice that and they will pick up on that. So really reflecting on yourself and making sure that you yourself are not gaining confidence through money, and that you're keeping those two things separately. And that's really the best way, is to lead by example.
Okay, some good advice. So it's not important to have the latest handbag model.
Oh, the latest handbag is always important, but it will not. I do not believe that a person's value is linked to their handbag.
Yes. Let's talk about another hot topic, birthday parties. I know we touched upon it earlier, but this is such an issue, a hot topic in the mommy community, because I'm sure you've heard the back and forth. And especially in our culture, I think also there's a cultural factor, variable. So what's your take on it? When is it too much? When is it enough? And how do we go about planning for these birthday parties that we all love so much?
I think you need to do these birthday parties for the right reasons.
Okay.
If you are...
Common sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Common sense.
They need to be for the right reasons. You cannot throw a birthday party because all of your other friends are throwing a birthday party for their kid.
Right.
That's not going to make you happy. and it's not going to, financially, it's probably not going to make sense for you. But if you feel like you really just want to celebrate your kid,
what if your child feels like it? Because this is what happens in our family. You know, a month before our kids' birthdays, you know, they get all excited. They know what they want. They have their theme, their place. They are very much in charge. They know their plan, and they actually come up and tell me what they would like and how they would like this birthday party to look like, you know, just anywhere from details, from party favors all the way to the guest list. So they're very much involved. And they've always been involved in planning. Now, in the past, we started off with a budget. So we in the beginning of the year, we would start and designate a certain, you know, amount for the birthday parties. And at times, we have, you know,
does it ever fall on the amount that you wanted it to? Because mine don't.
And so we want to be inclusive. We want to invite, you know, the community, which has been great. It's been part of building community and, you know, our children growing up together. So we really love that, and our children really love that. But there comes a point where we question, like both my husband and I, we sit down and we're like, well, that went overboard. Like we need to break it down to, you know, something smaller. But it's interesting because the kids are naturally both twins were having a birthday party soon. They are saying that next year they don't want a big party. They want a very small. So developmentally, it's almost like they're outgrowing the big parties, which I'm so excited. So excited. My husband is even more excited. But it's happening developmentally, naturally. And I mean, I don't regret for what we've done in the past, but there were some birthdays when I thought, well, you know, it did go overboard. But then I budgeted, like I cut back on other expenses. I didn't buy the handbag that I really wanted. So it was a budgeting matter.
Well, look, it's a matter of priorities and what's important for you. And same thing that I said before, I recommend writing down your priorities. And if having your friends over to celebrate a birthday, which I think is very, it's important and it's fun, if that's a priority for you, then maybe cut on something else, and that's okay.
So do you do this annually? Do you recommend doing this?
I recommend, every year, just, you know, pick a date, maybe January 1st or December 1st, a month before the new year. Talking about what your overall budget is going to be. And picking your priorities. And if, you know, having a party is a priority for you or for your kid, then I think that's great, and go for it. If you feel like it's just an obligation and something that is putting you in an uncomfortable position and you just have to do it because other people invited you and you went to their parties, you know, you could respond no, and you could just bring a gift. You don't have to invite them again. So it's really, I think, personal, and you need to just do what you're comfortable with. And also, back to the confidence issue, make sure that your kids know that they're not having a birthday party because all the other kids are having a birthday party. That if their birthday party is better than worse than anybody else's, that it doesn't reflect on who they are or who their parents are as people. And that this is for them, and this is not to impress anybody else. It is just to get together with the people that they care about, not to impress the people that they care about.
So back to the communication. It's all about the way you communicate, you engage. The whole family is involved in this discussion. It sounds like you would recommend kids to also participate in setting those priorities, which I think is fabulous. I think our twins who are turning 8, they love to participate. They get involved with these conversations, discussions, and they're very mindful and have great common sense and have good ideas. So we always engage them. And even our 6-year-old, you know, she's also very much into understanding the money management and plan. It's exciting. thank you so much. This has been a great meeting and visit, and you have given us so much good information, really, for all our families, our viewers. Any last remarks or ideas?
Sure.
Yeah.
Talk to your kids.
Okay.
Make a financial plan.
Okay.
Talk to your spouses.
Okay.
Communication. That's really the major point that I want to get across. And talk to a financial advisor.
Okay.
Because you need to get this all down on paper.
Right.
And that's, I think, the most important thing here.
Yeah. I know we don't have time for today's session, but another interesting topic is your passion about women and wealth management, which we would love to have you back again.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us today on MomTalk LA. Until next week.
Thank
Bye.
you.